Hi there, welcome to the Shack for this video, the 34th weekend since the initiation of lockdown originally in the UK back at the end of March. Still working from home, and here we are in the middle of a second lockdown, full national lockdown. Makes you wonder when it's ever going to end. I think we passed the 50,000 death mark this week. It's horrendous. And I just heard today that apparently new cases of coronavirus spiked just before the lockdown, as they gave everybody sort of 3 or 4 days notice, and everybody kind of rushed off to see their friends because they weren't going to see them for a month, and thus inadvertently creating a sort of a mini spike in new infections as a consequence of announcing that there would be a lockdown. So yeah, you know, I mean, it's I suppose that's human nature. You can't blame people for doing that, but you know, you do have to say that there does seem to be a sort of general lack of thought, perhaps, in terms of how some people are reacting. But there you go. Anyway, here we are in the Shack for another video, and you are looking at the Yaesu 817. I'm monitoring 80 meters. Using my end-fed wire, which has been working very well. I wanted to go QRP this weekend again, and I could do that, but the reason I'm not going to is because my only option to go QRP, or well, to go between sort of 10 and 15 watts is my FT991. Which will run on my 7.2 amp hour lead acid battery for a while at those kind of transmission power levels. But it's not ideal because it's a big radio. It's got a full color display. You know, it's drawing a lot of power from the battery that unnecessarily, so it's not the most efficient way of using 15 watts. This little Yaesu and the tiny little PA that I ordered from eBay is the most efficient way of doing that. And but what's happened is that the original unit was shipped and then was sent back to the manufacturer by Chinese customs. It didn't make it out of the country. They shipped a second unit, and that has now apparently left China, but it's still very sort of ambiguous as to where it is. So my plan to go QRP properly, which is i.e. with the FT817 and this little mini portable PA, is still on hold. So so this weekend on the Sked, I'm going full power with the Icom 7300, but hopefully that PA will arrive pretty soon. If any of you have been watching any of the videos, you'll notice that I've been focusing a lot more past week or so on portables, and part of that was because I was comparing the RFB40 with the RFB65, these are Panasonics, with the RF3100L, which I put back up on the shelf, and that was very interesting, and I'm going to be doing more comparison sort of work on with portables this weekend. I got a sort of bit of a flavour for it again. What's interesting actually for me is that the reception on the RFB65, which is this thing here, which is basically, you know, supposed to be one of the best portables ever. It's certainly in terms of sensitivity, this radio is regarded to be as sensitive as the Sony ICF 2001D or 2010 if you live in the US or other geographical locations. It seems that the sensitivity is actually on the RFB40, which is its much cheaper, coarse sort of tuning sort of variant. Little brother, this thing only tunes to 5 kilohertz, so selectivity on this thing is not great, and it doesn't have SSB. But in terms of sensitivity, I recorded a video a few days ago, Radio New Zealand International, which I'm currently listening to on my SDR, and the Panasonic RFB40 appeared to be as sensitive as a B65, certainly on that signal. which was a bit surprised. Now, I don't actually know anything about either radio. I don't know whether they actually share the same fundamental receiver or not. I'm assuming not. The B65 was a lot more expensive. Obviously, it's got single sideband and it tunes to 1 kilohertz, and it has fine tuning for SSB, etc. But the sensitivity of those two radios does seem to be remarkably similar. And likewise, the sensitivity with the B65 and the RF 3100, that thing there, it's, you know, similarly sensitive, which was a bit of a surprise to me. What also surprised me was the performance of the Sanjin ATS 909X, which was also sort of excellent, sort of fuller audio. Some people seem to prefer it. I prefer a slightly sort of shriller sounding audio, particularly for DXing. It just I think it makes identification of signals easier. Others don't prefer it. But once again, the 909X, you know, did a very good job with the Wellbrook loop attached to it. So much so, actually, that one of my subscribers suggested, and this is actually pretty sensible, suggested that the 909X, they should have basically made that radio a desktop radio without any kind of telescopic. So you basically forced to plug something like an amplified magnetic loop into it, or a long wire, or whatever, and then it would basically, the 909X would then basically be just a very good sort of tabletop receiver. And there is some logic to that. I really like that radio. I think the 909X is probably well, they call it industrial design. It's a posh word for the aesthetics. I just think it's always been the best looking shortwave portable, I think, ever. Similar, there's overtones to the kind of 80s and 90s Sonys with the large sort of LCD display. Obviously, it's more modern technology with better light backlighting, etc. I would, I've recorded a lot of and published a lot of videos using the 909X out in the field, just to sort of prove that it is as good with a long antenna as an RFB 65 or the Sony ICF SW55 or whatever. And it basically is there or thereabouts. I think probably it's not quite as sensitive, even with a long wire, as something like the Sony SW55 or 77, or even the Eaton Satellite, but it's close enough to basically not be important. So this weekend, I'm planning to have a play around some more with these great portables, and there's a couple that I haven't used for quite a long time here. One is the Sony SW55. I literally don't think I've got it out of the box since I moved, and that was getting on for 10 months ago. There's the PL880 upstairs, which I haven't done any serious DXing on for a while. There's the Eaton Satellite, which I haven't used very much. I've used it, actually I did use it a few weeks ago. And then there's the replacement XH Data D808, excuse me while I take a drink, which I bought a replacement because XH Data ignored my online pleas for a replacement, which is up to them. And I've never used it. I've got an XH Data D808 brand new in the box. I'm not sure. I can't remember if I've even ever taken it out of the box. So I haven't used it. It's basically the same radio to all intents and purposes as the Eaton Satellite anyway. I wouldn't trust it to take it away anywhere anymore after what happened. But I'm sat here now thinking, should I get that radio out and have a play with it this weekend as well? In a way, it's difficult to know what to do, because you've got the 2001D, which is widely regarded as being the best ever, except for the E1. Then you've got the RFB 65 Panasonic, which is regarded to be as sensitive as the Sony. But then you've got things like the PL880, which is regarded to be extremely sensitive as well, as is the XH Data D808, and as is the Eaton Satellite. So basically, depending on your point of view, you can choose probably one from 5 or 6 portable radios, and be fairly of the opinion that that one's the best. And I have compared these radios before, but I think I'm definitely going to have a play around this weekend, and with a couple that I haven't used for a while. I mean, I suppose what I should say is, I mean, I do get requests, but with these portables, if there's two portables that you would like a back-to-back test with, then drop me a line, and I'll see what I can do. Yeah, I'm fortunate really to actually own all these portable radios, because you know, you can end up taking that for granted actually, and maybe I do to a certain extent, but I am fortunate for sure. I'm still studying for my full license, and I can't remember if I mentioned this to you guys before or not, but basically there's an amateur radio club, the Cornish Radio Amateur Club, and they have a YouTube channel, and that's basically dedicated to training for the advanced, intermediate and foundation exams. And the videos that they've produced for these 3 license levels are absolutely they're amazing. Basically, I was sent a link to them by someone at the club, and who'd said that their feedback from another ham who'd been training was that they made a massive difference in terms of his sort of level of understanding. So anyone out there who is studying for either the foundation, intermediate or full license, I recommend that you go to the Cornish Radio Amateur Club Training YouTube channel, and they're organised into sort of playlists based on course. So I'm working through the advanced course. In fact, I've nearly watched all the videos, but then they're absolutely brilliant. I'm going to watch them all again, and yeah, highly recommend these videos to anybody that's interested in obtaining a license or is upgrading their license, etc. But to be honest with you, anybody who's interested in radio, they're that good that even if you just want to try and understand how a receiver works, or how a transmitter works, or how best to set up an antenna, you know, using an ATU, or you know what kind of matching you can expect, or you know EMC problems, RF noise problems with various antenna configurations. These videos are literally amazing, and I thoroughly recommend them basically. And I think these are going to make the difference. If I pass, it'll be because of these videos than me just reading the full license manual again and again and again, and which and I've already done that twice. So there you go. And they're kind of organised into, even down to selecting a calculator for the exam. I think they must suggest the Texas Instruments 30XA because they've got 3 videos on that. Oh no, they also recommend the Casio FX85 GT Plus. So then so they cover EMF and potential difference, resistors, series and parallel, potential dividers, capacitors, 1 and 2, receivers A, B, C and D, transmitters, bipolar transistors, advanced transistor characteristics, field effect transistors, decibels, Q, factor, bias in, feeders, antennas, propagation, blah, blah, blah. I mean, the list goes on, EMC, etc., semiconductors. So just a brilliant resource. And if the videos for the foundation and intermediate license are anywhere near as good as these for the full license, 100% worth a look. Right, moving on. This is, you may or may not be able to hear because the audio is not very good. That's Radio New Zealand International, and I'm listening to them today, as I have been on and off for the past couple of weeks, since one of my subs warned me that they had changed their schedules and they were now receivable. I don't know what it is about RNZI, other than obviously they're about as far away from here as you could possibly be on the planet, and I think I have a bit of an emotional attachment to this radio station for 2 reasons really. One is because I used to very much enjoy listening to Radio Australia and the Northern Territories stations, and yeah, the fact that Australia's now gone from shortwave basically means that just makes it feel like RNZI is even more important. And I still remember the first time I copied RNZI out in the woods with about 50 meters of wire attached to either probably my SW55 Sony or possibly perhaps even my Sanjin ATS 803A. One of those radios probably is how I first copied it, and I can still remember that kind of feeling, being stood out in the cold, listening to a sort of okay signal actually from New Zealand, feeling very chuffed with myself, and you know, and recording that signal. That I've probably got that recording. It's probably on my YouTube channel. I'm sure it is. And hearing them sort of basically, hearing them for the first time. I had heard them before then actually, but a very weak signal. So I'm kind of slightly obsessed with how good I can copy Radio New Zealand International at the moment. And it is variable during the day. You can sometimes copy them well. Not myself, but I was watching some videos from another YouTube subscriber who had recorded them on an SDR, and I've got to say his reception was absolutely superb. Literally like a local AM, no QSB, very little noise, just a very strong, very clear, very nice signal with quite a good, good fidelity for shortwave. Amazing. So I've kind of got this obsession with Radio New Zealand International, and I'm going to continue to compare my radios using that signal, but also try and obtain the best possible reception that I can while conditions are good. So that's just something else that I'll be doing. So there you go. So another weekend in the shack, another weekend of lockdown. You couldn't really make it up, could you? I mean, the way things have been going here in the UK for the past few months. I just hope everybody keeps safe. Try and keep busy. Listen to the radio, experiment with an antenna, do whatever. Join a Zoom meeting, call. Our club has them all the time, and they're fun. And let's all try and do the right thing so as that we can get over this damn pandemic and life can get back to normal as soon as possible. That's all I want, and I'm sure that's what all everybody else wants. So there you go. Anyway, I've rambled on long enough. So that's what I'm up to this weekend. Everybody keep safe, and always appreciate you guys taking the time to comment on the videos on the website on YouTube. So please continue to do that, and I'll continue to make these videos. So all I can say otherwise is have a great weekend. Hope the weather's not too bad, and speak to you soon. Thanks very much for watching the 7-3.